What is up, everybody? So Laura Nyrider, who is Brendan Dassey's current attorney, was on an episode of Dr. Phil the other day. She was on there talking about Brendan Dassey and a few other cases as well. There were a couple of other guests on the show with her, but in this video we're going to talk about what she had to say about Brendan Dassey. And she did talk about how the techniques used on Brendan Dassey are still being used to this day, and they wonder why people still falsely confess. Just absolutely mind-blowing that they still allow those type of techniques to be used today. Those type of techniques to be used on 16-year-olds. Those type of techniques to be used on 16-year-olds with a low IQ that are easily led and easily manipulated. Just absolutely disgusting and absolutely bonkers that investigators and police are still using those type of techniques today. Now, talking about Brendan Dassey, Laura Nyrider stated they have a lot of fight left for Brendan Dassey, but did state that the path for people like Brendan in his situation is almost impossible. She talks about how his confession was coerced and unreliable. Dr. Phil says Brendan doesn't know any more than a goose what he confessed to. He talked about how if he was to go take Brendan out of his cell and talk to him, that Brendan would have absolutely no idea what he actually confessed to. He states that he believes Brendan wasn't understanding what he confessed to. She talks about how this happened in 2006 when Brendan Dassey was 16 years old. She talks about how Brendan Dassey had a low IQ. She states that they interrogated him 4 times over 48 hours, and she is amazed that he held out as long as he did. She's surprised that he didn't falsely confess sooner because of the situation he was in. Then they play a clip, which is linked in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. The clip is of investigators talking. Laura Nyrider says that what they said in this clip was made up. No one was looking at Brendan Dassey at the time they were talking about what they said in this clip, because there was no evidence to think Brendan Dassey had anything to do with this crime. Because Brendan Dassey had nothing to do with this crime, there is still no evidence that Brendan Dassey had anything to do with this crime. Only his coerced false confession. That is the only reason why Brendan Dassey sits in prison to this day. She states what they said in this audio clip is how they started out scaring a 16-year-old boy with a low IQ. They start out with a lie. You could get murder charges, Brendan. That's how this kicked off, and it was downhill from there. And that's essentially everything that is in the clip on the YouTube channel. I have not seen the full episode yet. I don't actually have a way to watch it where I live. If it's online somewhere, I had a look and couldn't find it. If it's on a streaming service somewhere, please let me know. Or if you have a link to the full episode, please send it to me. I would love to see it. There is a 15-minute clip on Dr. Phil's YouTube channel as well, which I will link that in the description below. But if Laura Nyrider talks more about Brendan Dassey in the actual episode, I would love to see it. So please hook me up with a link if you have one, or if you know where it airs on a streaming service. I would definitely like to go and watch it. And it is good to see that Laura Nyrider states they have a lot of fight left for Brendan Dassey. I don't know what their next steps are in trying to get Brendan Dassey back in court in front of a judge, or just to get him released from prison, because, you know, he had absolutely nothing to do with it. The governor needs to commute Brendan Dassey's sentence immediately. Do the right thing. Release Brendan Dassey from prison. He had absolutely nothing to do with this. There's no evidence. The only bit of evidence that is keeping Brendan in prison to this day is his false confession, his coerced confession. And watching those video clips, even the few seconds that they played on Dr. Phil in the clip that I saw yesterday, I've seen them a million times, and there's absolutely no way you can tell me that Brendan Dassey knew what he was confessing to. He was just feeding back what was already being told to him. Let me know what you think. Leave some comments below. I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you again soon.